Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive?
Always.
Well, today we're heading to Paris, but not for the Eiffel Tower or croissants.
No, though those are pretty tempting.
We're time traveling back to the Belle Epoque, the early 1900s.
Think beautiful gowns, Art Nouveau, and a spirit of, well, daring to be different.
Exactly, and at the heart of it all, this incredible woman, Natalie Clifford Barney.
Now, I know what you might be thinking, another Parisian socialite, but Natalie was so much more than that.
She wasn't content with just attending fancy parties. She created her own scene.
A salon, to be precise, but not just any salon. This was a haven for the most radical artists and thinkers of the era.
Imagine like a who's who of literary giants just casually hanging out every week.
Yeah.
Colette, Gertrude Stein, Ezra Pound.
All exchanging ideas, debating, creating, and Natalie was the orchestrator, the connector, the woman who made it all happen.
What strikes me is how she used her privilege. She was born into wealth. Her father, a railway car tycoon.
And her mother's family built opera houses. Talk about a dramatic background.
It's like she was destined for a life on the stage, but not as a performer, as a curator of brilliance.
And what's even more remarkable is that she did all this while being openly lesbian in a time when that was incredibly taboo.
Oh, we have to talk about her love life. It's legendary. Courtesans, artists, even a duchess.
The Duchess of Clermont-Tonnerre, to be exact. They had this fascinating decades-long relationship.
Even celebrating their anniversary every year, even after they weren't romantically involved anymore.
It really makes you question what commitment and love meant back then, doesn't it?
And it wasn't just the Duchess. Natalie had numerous relationships, often overlapping, which, let's be honest, probably caused some drama.
Oh, undoubtedly. But she was always upfront about her desires, even drafting marriage contracts with some of her partners advocating for open relationships, long before that was even a concept.
It shows a remarkable level of self-awareness and a willingness to challenge societal norms.
And courage. Imagine the backlash she faced, especially from her own family.
Her father even tried to buy up every copy of her first book of poetry, which was dedicated to women, to try and suppress it.
That just fueled her fire, though. She refused to be silenced.
And thank goodness for that, because her salon became this incredible incubator for creativity, especially for women.
At a time when women's voices were often ignored or dismissed, she created a space where they could flourish.
It's almost like she built a parallel universe, a world where talent and passion were celebrated above all else.
And that's what we're going to explore today, the world of Natalie Clifford Barney.
The woman who dared to live and love on her own terms, and in doing so, created a legacy that continues to inspire.
So buckle up, because we're about to dive headfirst into a world of art, love, and rebellion.
A world where Fridays were more than just the end of the week. They were a celebration of the human spirit in all its messy, glorious complexity.
You know, it's easy to get lost in all the glamour and intellectual buzz of Natalie's salon, but we can't forget the drama.
Yeah, can you imagine all those big personalities crammed into one house?
Oh, there must have been fireworks. Brilliant minds, passionate hearts.
And a healthy dose of ego, I'd wager.
You got it. And Natalie, of course, was no stranger to a little drama herself.
Especially when it came to love. Like, remember her and the Duchess of Clermont-Tonnerre?
Lily, as she was known.
Lily. They celebrated their anniversary for years and years.
Even after they, weren't a couple anymore romantically.
It really makes you think about how they defined commitment back then.
Yeah, they had a bond that went way beyond, like, societal norms.
Totally. But it doesn't mean it was all smooth sailing, right?
Oh, not at all. Natalie could be quite jealous.
Oh, I remember that whole thing with Eva Palmer and the Greek poet.
Oh, that was a messy one.
It's almost reassuring, right? That even someone as, forward-thinking as Natalie
still got caught up in those very human emotions.
makes her more relatable somehow.
Exactly. She was a trailblazer, absolutely, but also just a person,
With all the same messy feelings as the rest of us.
And that's what makes her story so fascinating.
Speaking of complicated relationships, what about Natalie and her mother, Alice?
Oh, that's a whole other layer.
There was so much back and forth,
Yeah.
acceptance and rejection.
Well, it was a different time. Imagine being a mother then and your daughter.
Is living this, wildly unconventional life.
It must have been incredibly difficult for her.
But then again, Alice wasn't exactly a stick in the mud herself, was she?
That's true. Marrying a man younger than both her daughters.
Pretty scandalous for the time.
Natalie raised some eyebrows.
Makes you wonder if maybe seeing Natalie live so freely.
Inspired her to, take a chance herself.
Yeah, Natalie's courage gave Alice permission to.
Embrace her own individuality.
That's a pretty beautiful thought, actually.
It is. And then there was Natalie's sister, Laura.
Oh, yeah, who converted to the Baha'i faith, right?
And married the first French Baha'i.
Wow. The Barney sisters were a force to be reckoned with, huh?
Each one blazing her own trail.
Really makes you think about those family dinners.
Right. Must have been lively.
So we've talked about love, family, drama.
But what about Natalie's writing itself?
Oh, right. Beyond the scandalous poetry, she wrote a lot.
12 books, mostly in French.
They say her epigrams are particularly good.
Those short, witty sayings.
Yeah, like little windows into her mind.
She was incredibly sharp, able to sum up these huge ideas.
In just a few words.
Exactly. And her memoirs, of course, give us this incredible glimpse
into the whole Parisian avant-garde scene.
It's like we're right there in the salon with them.
Listening to Colette Gossip and Gertrude Stein dissect the latest novel.
It's amazing to think about all that creative energy swirling around them.
And Natalie at the center of it all, not just writing, but supporting other writers, too.
Especially women. She used her position to help them get published.
Find their audience, make their voices heard.
She really created a whole literary ecosystem.
A haven for talent.
It's inspiring, really.
Yeah. She understood the challenges women faced, especially back then.
And she actively thought to break down those barriers.
It makes you wonder, how many careers did she launch? How many stories would have been told?
Without her support, we'll never know, but it's an incredible legacy.
Absolutely. But it's important to remember that even with all her amazing qualities,
Natalie was still a product of her time.
Her views on gender, for example, don't always line up with
how we think about things today.
It's a good reminder that even our heroes are complex,
Yeah, history is rarely black and white.
So as we keep exploring Natalie's world, I guess the question is,
how do we reconcile those complexities with her undeniable impact?
It's a good question, and one we'll keep unpacking as we go deeper into the life and legacy of Natalie Clifford Barney.
Thinking about Natalie's world, it's just amazing, all those artists and writers.
Yeah, pushing boundaries, breaking rules.
It was a crazy time for creativity, right? Like the birth of modernism.
All this radical new art and music and literature exploding onto the scene.
And Natalie's salon, right in the thick of it.
Yeah, she wasn't just observing it, she was curating it, almost.
Absolutely. It was a gathering place, but also like a think tank,
And not just for Parisians either.
No, she drew people from all over.
Americans, Brits, you name it.
She had this incredible ability to spot talent.
And she loved connecting people.
Yeah.
Introducing them, sparking collaborations.
Her salon was like a microcosm of this whole artistic revolution happening across Europe.
And beyond.
It makes you wonder, right? What would the art world look like today?
If she hadn't brought all those people together?
We've talked about Colette and Gertrude Stein, of course, but there were so many others.
What about Redcliffe Hall, the author of The Well of Loneliness?
Oh, yeah. She actually based a character in that book on Natalie.
Really?
Valerie Seymour, she's like this strong, independent woman who creates this safe space.
For people struggling with their sexuality, right?
Exactly. It's a pretty clear tribute to Natalie and the role she played for so many.
A kind of mentor, a protector.
It makes you realize how important those havens were back then,
Yeah, when being gay was not just frowned upon, it was illegal.
Exactly. It took incredible courage to live openly like that.
Natalie, Radcliffe Hall, they were true pioneers.
They paved the way for so many others to come.
In their work, their lives, it reminds us that the fight for equality, it's a marathon, not a sprint.
There are going to be setbacks, but we have to keep pushing forward.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Natalie Clifford Barney's world, I guess the question is,
what do we take away from it? What can we learn from her?
She shows us that one person really can make a difference.
That even against all odds, you can create your own world, your own rules.
And that bringing people together, creating community, that's powerful stuff.
And that's a lesson that's as relevant today as it was back then.
So think about it. What kind of world do you want to create? What change do you want to see?
And who are the people you need to bring together to make it happen? Because, like Natalie showed us, anything is possible when you have the courage to dream big.
And the passion to make those dreams a reality.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
We'll see you next time for another fascinating journey into history.